Greetings, YouTube. I recently found myself pondering the existence of vampires and sapient zombies in the real world. Now, we have them in numerous settings. Now, most of the time, zombies are not sapient. They are little more than animals, if that. And they can't really interface with the world well. You know what I mean? Most of them can't even handle the concept of a doorknob. But there are settings where there are fully sapient zombies. They know they're zombies. They are trying to remain hidden. Um, Sometimes they're the bad guys. Sometimes they're just Joe Schmo down the street trying to get through the day. Um, and of course, vampires, they are all over the spectrum. From vampires that consider themselves redeemed and rely purely on animal blood to those that are somewhat conflicted and those that have a collection of humans they can feed on, but they don't kill. And then you get the full-blown vampires that just like to kill. Now, I know that they have to exist with magic. The T virus from out there from the Oblivion Corporation, Umbrella Oblivion. I can't remember what the hell it's called, but it's the Evil Dead cold thing. Yeah. Uh, shoot, Underworld? No, it's not Underworld. I can't remember. Mila Jovovich is in the series, but the T virus does exist, and that's a science fiction-y explanation, and it's usually close enough to fit a science fiction world, so we just kind of gloss over it. But those are not sapient either, though there are creatures from that realm which are sapient, and I've always wondered, are they full-blown dead things, or are they just biotech? Now, why do I think of this? I think of this because if you have vampires and you have sapient zombies, there are questions I have about how they function in the real world. I know it takes magic to make them exist. Okay, I give that. I'm letting that one slide. How do they talk? Traditionally, zombies and vampires have no pulse and no respiration. Usually they're room temperature, which would imply that smart zombies would live in places where the actual temperature is closer to body temperatures. They'd live in warm places. That way they blend in. If it's 100 degrees outside, they have a body temperature pretty much like you and I do right now. So if it's in the 90s, no one's going to notice that they aren't alive as far as room temperature for their body is concerned, because room temperature is the same as them. They probably don't want to live in a place with a lot of AC because they would suddenly seem really, really cold. Maybe they like that kind of thing. So how do they talk? I mean, you're hearing my voice right now because I am moving air past a vibrating membrane, my vocal cords. If you don't have a respiration, how do you talk? That's a mystery to me. All right. Now you could say, well, it's magic, so they can just communicate. Is that how they can like talk inside the heads of some people? Because they're actually communicating psychically, magically, psychically, what have you? What's the range in that? If that's the explanation. And yes, I think about these things because I think it's a hole in the world building. And if they're dead, they cannot operate capacitive devices. And if they can't talk this way, they can't even talk on a phone. If somebody else dials it, they talk. Nothing's going to happen. Now, they can communicate through this device because there's a mouse and a keyboard, mechanical objects. Are there any smartphones out there that have touch screens that aren't capacitive? I don't know of any. Was it ever a thing? Was there like a window out there where they were going from buttons to touchscreen and then they went to capacitive? Do they still exist? Would the anachronism of that item kind of give you away if that person's a little weird? Are a lot of BlackBerry users out there? Do all vampires use Blackberries because they've got those wonderful little keyboards and stuff on them? Maybe. They may They can just say that, oh, I like older technology. Hint, they like older technology because they can't use the new stuff. But there's so much technology they couldn't use. And if that's true, maybe that's why they can't be seen on cameras, because some of the mythologies, they can't be seen on cameras. They can't be recorded on cameras. They don't exist on electronic devices. You could get them on film, so the old cameras that used film could pick them up in theory, but digital stuff probably couldn't. Maybe they can't even show up on the film cameras because the whole mirror thing. They don't have a reflection. Who knows? But it's going to get increasingly difficult as time goes by to pass themselves off. Real easy in the 18th and 19th and 20th century. Gets increasingly hard now. It's 2020. If you can't use one of these, if you don't show up on cameras, if your room temperature, an infrared scanner is not going to pick you up. And they're dirt common right now. My company uses an infrared scanner to check the body temperature of every single person that walks in my company right now because of COVID-19. And then if we pass, they give us a little sticker with the date on it saying, okay, on June 6th, you put that on, you're okay. And you wear it all day long, and the next day, if you pass, you get another one. So we all walk around with a Best By date stuck on us. It's somewhat depressing in my book. It's a little bit of a, dystopian future, but that's where we are. But I wonder about these things. How do the vampires and the sapient zombies function in the real world? Because eventually, they become the sinless. Social identity number, but they don't have one. They have to operate in between the cracks of society. They can't be out in the open. It'd be hard for them to have things like bank accounts and pay bills and things. Some of those things you can still do with a computer. But what happens when we get further and further into technology in the near future, and more things become capacitive and not mechanical? And they become more and more anachronistic because they have to use these mechanical devices, otherwise they can't interface with the world. Not to mention, how do they get away with not being seen on cameras? So I ponder these things, and I'll be having some follow-up videos about this particular kind of line of thinking as how it interfaces with both cyberpunk and cyber generation, which was a different iteration of cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, like the next generation, literally after the cyberpunk era, the children of those that were the street samurais, what happened to them? What did they do with the world? It's very much a reflection of like the kids who are Generation Z right now, how they're facing the world that the boomers have given them. That's very much analogous to the cyberpunk generation are the boomers, and Generation Z is cyber generation. That's a really great parallel there. So let's talk about, how do zombies and vampires interface with a world that is increasingly technologically based? How do they talk? How do they pass? It's that kind of thing fascinates me, and it bugs me when those details are left as holes.